April 1814. An era of conquest has come to an end. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who redrew the map of Europe, has fallen. Under pressure from the Grand Coalition, he signs his abdication and is exiled to the Mediterranean island of Elba. The Bourbon monarchy returns to Paris in the form of Louis XVIII. But the restoration of the old order brings only resentment. France, accustomed to greatness, chafes under a king brought in the baggage train of enemy armies, and nobles thirsty for revenge for the revolution of 1789. Meanwhile, in Vienna, the victors carve at the European pie. But their greed breeds discord. Napoleon, watching closely, knows this is his chance. After less than a year in exile, he lands on French shores. The regiment sent to intercept him. Instead of firing, defect to the emperor amidst cries of "Vive l'Empereur." The country welcomes him as a hero. However, in Vienna, Europe's monarchs instantly forget their quarrels. Napoleon is declared an enemy of humanity. 7 powers mobilize their armies for a final solution to the Corsican question. The emperor realizes that waiting for invasion is suicide. The coalition is preparing a coordinated attack from all sides. His only hope is a preemptive strike, to defeat his enemies one by one and dictate peace from a position of strength. The first target lies in Belgium, where Field Marshal Blücher's Prussian army and the Duke of Wellington's allied forces are stationed. Separately, the French army of the north is stronger than either of them, but their union would be fatal. Napoleon's strategy is simple and brilliant. Drive a wedge between the allies and destroy them separately. The French cross the river Sambre, catching the allied command off guard. The next day, Napoleon splits his forces. Marshal Ney is ordered to seize the strategic crossroads of Quatre-Bras to cut off the route for the armies to join. There, Ney engages Wellington's vanguard. The British and their allies manage to hold their ground only with immense effort. Simultaneously, near the village of Ligny, Napoleon unleashes his main blow against the Prussians. The battle turns into a brutal slaughter. The 72-year-old Blücher leads a cavalry counterattack in person. His horse is killed, and the field marshal narrowly escapes capture, pinned under his own steed. The Prussians are beaten and retreat, but their army is not destroyed. Napoleon makes a critical error. Believing Prussia is out of game, he sends a third of his army under Marshal Grouchy to pursue the retreat, while he turns his attention to the British. Wellington only learns of his allies' defeat the next morning. He orders a retreat north, under cover of torrential rain that turns the roads into swamps. He halts at a position he had scouted previously, the ridge of Mont Saint-Jean, near the hamlet of Waterloo. Having received assurances from Blücher that the Prussians would come to his aid, the Iron Duke decides to stand and fight. Wellington's position is masterfully chosen. His troops are sheltered behind the ridge, protecting them from direct French artillery fire. His defense is anchored on 3 fortified points: the Chateau of Hougoumont on the right flank, the farm of La Haye in the center, and the farm of Peyplotte on the left. These stone structures have been turned into veritable fortresses. The forces are roughly equal in number, but differ in quality. Napoleon has hardened veterans. Wellington commands a motley army of British, Dutch, and Germans, many of them raw recruits. Their task is to hold until the Prussians arrive. Otherwise, Europe is lost. Sunday morning dawns clear, but the ground is sodden from rain. Napoleon waits for the soil to dry, so his artillery can maneuver. These few hours of delay will prove fatal. While Grouchy engages in a pointless fight with the Prussian rear guard at Wavre, Blücher's main force is already marching toward the sound of the guns at Waterloo. Around 11 a.m., the French begin their attack on Hougoumont, intended as a diversion to force Wellington to burn his reserves. The attack turns into a bloody meat grinder that instead pins down French forces. At a critical moment, French sappers smash through the complex's gates, but the defenders, Coldstream Guards, manage to slam the doors shut, slaughtering everyone who made it inside. By noon, the French Grand Battery opens fire, although many cannonballs sink into the mud. Allied casualties mount. At 1:30 p.m., D'Erlin's dense infantry columns advance. They crush the first line of defense, but are met by the charge of British heavy cavalry. The famous charge of the Scots Greys sweeps away the French infantry, capturing 2 precious regimental eagles. However, intoxicated by success, the cavalrymen push too far and are decimated by a counterattack of French lancers. The Allied cavalry is effectively destroyed. Around 4 p.m., Marshal Ney mistakes movement in the enemy rear for a retreat and throws all available cavalry into the attack. It is a tragic mistake. The Allied infantry does not run, they form squares. French cuirassiers flow around these living hedgehogs bristling with bayonets, but cannot break them without infantry support. The flower of the French cavalry perishes under crossfire. The situation shifts with the arrival of the Prussians, who attack Napoleon's flank at the village of Plancenoit. The emperor is forced to stretch his lines. At 6 p.m., the French finally capture La Haye Sainte in the center. This allows them to bring guns within canister range and blast Wellington's lines at point-blank range. The British defense begins to crack. Victory seems within reach, but Napoleon has no time left. Prussian pressure is intensifying. He decides on a final gamble, committing his untouchable reserve, the Imperial Guard. At 7:30 p.m., the Immortals attack. They march through a hell of artillery fire and crest a ridge. But there they are met by a wall of fire from the British Guards, who rise from the tall grass at Wellington's command. The invincible Guard, unable to withstand a volley and a flank attack, wavers and begins to retreat. The cry, La Garde Recule. The Guard retreats, demoralizes the rest of the army. Wellington waves his hat, signaling a general advance. Simultaneously, the Prussians break through at Plancenoit. The French army dissolves into a mob of fugitives. Only the squares of the old guard maintain discipline, covering the flight of their emperor. The battle is over. Wellington and Blücher meet near an inn with the symbolic name La Belle Alliance. Blücher suggests naming the victory after it, but Wellington insists on the tradition of naming battles after his headquarters, Waterloo. The Duke later calls his victory the nearest run thing you ever saw in your life. The field is strewn with bodies, over 50,000 men killed or wounded. Due to a shortage of doctors, many wounded will die in agony over the coming days. For Napoleon, this is the end. Unable to raise a new army, he surrenders to Great Britain. He is sent to St. Helena, a rock lost in the Atlantic for which there is no return. There he dies 6 years later. Waterloo marked the end of a series of wars. Europe entered a 40-year period of peace, and the British Army would not fight on the continent again until the First World War in 1914. Half a century later, in the dawn of photography, a lens captured the faces of those who survived that day. On grainy images sit old men in uniforms that are now too big for them. These are the veterans of the Grande Armée. In their faded eyes, the memory of events that shaped the destiny of the world 200 years ago remains frozen. The faces of 1815 may fade, but their stories remain. If you want to help us keep history alive, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support allows us to create more documentaries like this one. And I have a question for you. Do you think Napoleon ever stood a chance at Waterloo? Or was his defeat inevitable from the start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next chapter of history.